Hey folks, Nick here from another BookTube channel. Today, reading Avengers number 58, the second appearance of the Vision. I covered his first appearance not too long ago, and I got a pretty decent response from that video. A couple people wanted me to do the second appearance as well, so here we are. And visually, I think that this is an even better issue than that first one, issue 57. But I do think the story here is wafer thin. So it's a bit of a mixed bag. You get a lot of really nice John Buscema eye candy, but story leaves a lot to be desired. And I'll explain as we go through. First off, I love this cover. I don't know that it's definitely not as iconic as the previous one, that first appearance, but in terms of just excitement and like visual interest, very cool. I like the color of the Avengers in the foreground, and then you got the clear Vision in the background. Just looks really neat. Good idea. Well executed. And a great opening splash page, as is usual with these Silver Age Marvel books. Name of the issue is Even an Android Can Cry. It's written by Roy Thomas, art by John Buscema, inked by George Klein. And I really, right off the bat, really interesting like sky patterns, like static white noise. Kind of an interesting look for a Marvel comic. But again, great splash. Love the lettering here, probably by Sam Rosen. I don't know if Buscema incorporated that into his art. Black Panther looks awesome. He's heading back to Avengers HQ. He got an alert. There's a team meeting, and he thinks there's some kind of big bad on the way. As it turns out, they've just been called together to discuss whether or not Vision should be allowed to join the Avengers, because he has expressed a desire to do so. He came to kill them in the previous issue, but he was just built by the Ultron 5 as like a decoy to get them to his lair so that he could kill them. It's a bit messy. Go watch that episode. But Vision, at his heart, feels like a good person, even though he's not really a person. And that's really what the hinge of this issue is. And we have a great ensemble. This is what this issue is really good for, is a lot of really nice group shots. A lot of good poses from our main heroes. Something like this is really cool, where you just have Iron Man's like head and hand as the highlight, and like there's no real body, there's no real panel there. Iron Man is playing devil's advocate, saying like, we don't really know who the Vision is or what he is, or how can we let him in here? And Captain America decides that he is going to launch a sneak attack on Vision to see what he's got, see if he's got what it takes to defend himself against a threat. This goes very stupidly because nobody else picks up on this right away, or only a handful of them do. So Goliath tries to stop Captain America from attacking Vision, and so Captain America has to dodge him. Vision just turns himself, basically invisible. He changes his density, so Cap jumps right through him. And then Iron Man decides he's going to take a shot at him. He's going to hit him with his repulsor rays, but once again, Vision can withstand that. And this is just like I talked about in issue 57. There's always this type of sequence in old Marvel comics where the heroes just have to show off what they can do. Just in case it's some kid's first comic. We want to get a display of pretty much everybody's powers. At least the main players. So Iron Man gets to play, but Vision dispatches him, picks him up with one hand, and then Thor, the big dumb idiot, thinks that like Vision is being aggressive, so he straight out like attacks him. He's like, I shall deal with this. Son of Odin will take care of it. And he does manage to stun the Vision, but then Goliath gets Thor under control, and he's like, listen, this was just a test, And Thor's like, finally, I understand. Because I don't know. I guess maybe having the MCU Thor be a massive idiot wasn't completely out of character after all. This is where the meeting gets underway of like, okay, let's get down to business. Vision wants to join the Avengers. Let's talk about the history of the Avengers now and like who our ranks have been. Great hero shot of every past member, including the Hulk. You got Spider-Man, Scarlet Witch, Quicksilver, Black Widow in her old costume. Um, and that's what a lot of the issue is, and that's kind of why I say the story's paper thin, because we're currently 8 story pages in, and all we've determined is that Vision wants to join the Avengers. Should we let him? And now we're like, we had a random fight sequence that was no stakes and meaningless, and now we're just recounting the history of the Avengers and who was there. And now we get a flashback to Vision's origin and his initial creation by Ultron. And these are nice sequences because we get to see Vision immediately as having human thoughts, like he's using his mind to question and not just blindly obey. I like another one of these panels here. Looks really cool. This is another great one, a little montage of Vision with Ultron right in the center, kind of controlling him, pulling the strings. But Vision still, he's not doesn't feel evil, doesn't feel like he wants to go through with the mission. And he says, and you know the rest of the story, because that was issue 57. Goliath is thinking about this experiment that he worked on in the past on a synthezoid that he had abandoned, but he doesn't remember how it turned out. His memory about it has been erased. So off the Avengers go to try to find what happened with that experiment. And this is something from like the Silver Age that I don't think it's continued today, where rather than calling his hammer Mjolnir, like by the name we know it today, Thor just always calls it his enchanted Uru hammer. That's something that's been dropped. But he uses that hammer to make everybody fly to the next location. Okay. I don't think that's a power that's stuck around either. He just like whips it around them to create like a cyclone and just carries them off. I don't know about that. And now another flashback, this time of this machine, this synthezoid that Hank Pym, who is Goliath, built, and how it immediately kind of turns on him. And so we get another action sequence here of basically just Goliath being zapped by electricity in various different ways. He's trying to destroy this robot, and he's not denting it. What ends up happening is this thing knocks him out, wipes his memory, and escapes. And so Goliath, not remembering what happened here, just decides, I'm going to board up this lab that I had. I'm only going to work in the Avengers HQ from now on. Good dramatic lighting. And so it must be that robot did something here, and Iron Man puts the rest of the pieces together. He says, we had Wonder Man's brain scan file here, and that's missing now. And now we go into another flashback about when the Avengers dealt with Wonder Man back in issue number 9, where Wonder Man was dying of a disease. He teamed up with the Masters of Evil and Baron Zemo to infiltrate the Avengers. Zemo said he had the antidote for his disease. Wonder Man ends up, again, he was a heel, turns face at the end, saves the day, but dies in the process. But they save his brain scan to potentially bring him back one day. That staticky background makes another appearance there. So the final deduction that's made here is that machine that Hank Pym built turned itself into the Ultron 5, who then built the Vision and used Wonder Man's brain patterns to give the Vision his mind. So that's why the Vision feels so human to himself, even though he's fully, an android. It's because he does have the actual mind of a human being. And so they go back to the HQ to make their decision about whether or not Vision should be allowed to join. And we see here one of the best final pages, I think, maybe in comic history. Excellent. But yeah, it wraps up as you expect. Everybody votes unanimously that he is allowed. He's going to be a new member of the team. And at first, everyone's thinking he doesn't have any reaction to it outwardly. He seems very cold. But Hank Pym says he can't help that Avenger. And yet, if you saw his eyes right now, I'm sure you'd learn that even an android can cry. This is a weird panel. I don't know what the flower like starburst is here. I don't know where that imagery comes from. Just throw in once and then maybe never again. But pretty cool. And another really cool use of like weird staticky background textures, but also with some ink lines over it. Uh, and an iconic closing. So an iconic opening, iconic closing. Oh, I didn't point out the registration. My color registration in this particular copy I have is super off. Like, look at how off the diamond is. There was one of Captain America's back that looked terrible. Yeah, look at the star on his back. The white is way too low. So whoever did the registration printing this particular comic did a particularly bad job. And I do want to close with one more item. This issue features a Stan's soapbox, and it's one of the most famous of Stan's soapboxes. This is Stan Lee's editorial that he would put in a lot of the back of these Silver Age comics for a long time, actually, up until I think the Bronze Age. And I'll read it out to you because it's probably the best thing Stan Lee ever wrote. Let's lay it right on the line. Bigotry and racism are among the deadliest social ills plaguing the world today. But unlike a team of costumed supervillains, they can't be halted with a punch in the snoot or a zap from a ray gun. The only way to destroy them is to expose them, to reveal them for their insidious evils that they really are. The bigot is an unreasoning hater, one who hates blindly, fanatically, indiscriminately. If his hang-up is black men, he hates all black men. If a redhead once offended him, he hates all redheads. If some foreigner beat him to a job, he's down on all foreigners. He hates people he's never seen, people he's never known, with equal intensity, with equal venom. Now, we're not trying to say it's unreasonable for one human being to bug another, but although anyone has the right to dislike another individual, it's totally irrational, patently insane to condemn an entire race, to despise an entire nation, to vilify an entire religion. Sooner or later, we must learn to judge each other on our own merits. Sooner or later, if man is ever to be worthy of his destiny, we must fill our hearts with tolerance. For then, and only then, will we be truly worthy of the concept that man was created in the image of God, a God who calls us all his children. Pax et Justitus, Stan. So, lovely closing words to end with. Sorry to say, Stan, things did not get better. But a good sentiment nonetheless. Let me know your thoughts about this issue in the comments. Let me know if there's anything that I missed that's worth pointing out. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. But now, it's time to get back to reading.